Hunter Biden seems to have dug himself into quite a hole here. His art isn't selling as much nowadays, and his funds are all dried up.
Continues to call the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, Governor of Canada. I'm curious what he means by that, and if there are any plans that are moving forward with trying to make Canada the 51st state. And I have a follow-up on the economy as well.
Sure. Well, the president put that in his True Social account, or his True Social post earlier today. He feels strongly that it would be very beneficial for the Canadian people to be the 51st state of the United States. They wouldn't be paying for these tariffs. They'd have much lower taxes if they were part of our great country.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau cries on national TV after a tough phone call with President Donald Trump. One prime minister from Canada calls for a nuclear alliance to use against the United States. Democrats continue to embarrass themselves, this time with a viral cringe video. And Hunter Biden is in financial troubles as he says he allegedly owes millions of dollars. Now, if you guys appreciate the daily news updates, please take a second and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I got all of that and more in today's video. So let's go ahead and get started with Canada, shall we?
So there's been more than a 2,000% increase in illegal fentanyl seizure at the northern border. Why? Because Canada is allowing that fentanyl to come to the United States. The president sees these numbers. He thinks about the lives that are lost. And everybody in this room, I'm sure, everybody watching at home, everybody across the country knows someone in our lives who has been killed at the hands of this deadly poison. There needs to be repercussions for that. The president feels very strongly about
Caroline, respectfully, it's just 43 pounds that were found last year. That's less than a carry-on suitcase. Is that a lot of fentanyl compared to, say, Mexico? The vast majority of the fentanyl is brought in through Mexico, not Canada. So what else does Canada need to do?
Well, I just told you, last year alone, there was a 2,000% increase in illegal fentanyl.
But it's only
You're asking me for what the president's justification is for these tariffs. It's not up to you. You're not the president, Gabe. And frankly, I think it's a little bit disrespectful to the families in this country who have lost loved ones at the hands of this deadly poison. If you talk to them, and this president has, they are grateful that they finally have a president who is standing up to both Canada and Mexico. And
It's kind of weird how these journalists downplay drugs that have literally killed thousands upon thousands of Americans. And while there has been some progress with Canada when it comes to that, it's still not enough. Should Canada be held accountable for the fentanyl crisis, or is this just another media cover-up? Type "hold Canada accountable" if you think Justin Trudeau needs to step up and stop this crisis now, or "media lies" if you believe that the media is just downplaying the truth to protect the elites. Let me see where everybody stands on that one. So President Trump, he went on Truth Social to confirm this, sharing how Canada's prime minister is asking what they could do to avoid these tariffs. In his post, he says, "Justin Trudeau of Canada called me to ask what could be done about tariffs. I told him that many people have died from fentanyl that came through the borders of Canada and Mexico, and nothing has convinced me that it has stopped. He said that it's gotten better, but I said that's not good enough." The call ended in a somewhat friendly manner. He was unable to tell me when the Canadian election is going to be taking place, which had me curious, like, what's going on here? I then realized he's trying to use this issue to stay in power. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel where we break down the biggest political disasters, we expose the radical left, and we watch the Democratic Party implode in real time. Oh boy, when Democrats start flip-flopping on their own policies, you know something is going terribly wrong. In fact, they spent years silencing debate, running from tough questions, and hiding behind friendly interviews on CNN and MSNBC. But now, well, they're scrambling, they're backtracking, and they're desperately trying to rewrite their own history. And nobody embodies that desperation more than Gavin Newsom. In fact, this is the same guy who pushed every radical policy California had to offer. Sky-high taxes, homelessness exploding, crime through the roof. But suddenly, now that Trump is back in the White House, Newsom is trying to moderate himself. Why? Because the Democratic Party is in an absolute freefall. Gavin Newsom, he's trying to rebrand himself. He's reinventing and even betraying his own base just to stay politically relevant. But here's the thing, guys. It's not even working. Instead, his own party is turning against him. And the backlash, oh, it's just beginning. Now, we got all the receipts, all the details. If you guys appreciate the updates, hit the like button and subscribe. Gavin Newsom just shocked his own party in a way that no one could have seen coming. In a jaw-dropping twist, the radical governor, California governor, who spent years championing the far-left agenda, he just made a stunning admission that has Democrats in full-blown panic mode, guys. In fact, is Gavin Newsom secretly abandoning Biden and the whole woke movement to save his own political future? Well, the signs are undeniable and the fallout is explosive. So stay tuned, guys, because what we have just uncovered is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Gavin Newsom has spent years pushing the radical left's agenda, defending policies that have turned California into a disaster zone. But now, something just happened that no one expected. In his own podcast, Newsom suddenly broke from the Democratic script, admitting something that completely shatters the woke narrative. Even his own supporters were left stunned. But here's a real kicker, guys. This isn't some random slip up. This is calculated. Newsom sees the writing on the wall. Biden is floundering. The country is rejecting far left insanity, and the Democratic Party is in chaos. And now Newsom is making a desperate move to position himself for 2028, even if it means throwing his own party under the bus. And the truth behind this shift? Oh, it's even darker than you think.
I don't know. I think he wants to be president, Sean, more than anything else on the planet. I think you can agree he has more political ambition than almost anybody in the Democrat Party. And I think he understands that the entire country is moving center-right and is accelerating at a rapid pace. In fact, we are course correcting after 4 failed years under Joe Biden and all of the woke stuff and the anti-common sense movement. Gavin Newsom had me on his podcast, and I was shocked all of a sudden where he decided to diverge away from the orthodox opinion in the Democrat Party, which is as simple as saying that it's not fair that a biological man can compete in female sports. Now, number one, I don't believe that he actually has any heartfelt beliefs in this. I think it's purely political transactional. However, everybody in the audience should understand this means that we are winning at such a rapid pace that the governor of the largest state in the country, the largest Democrat state, who obviously wants to be president, has to adjust his policies again.
Wow, this is big, guys. Charlie Kirk just literally put Gavin Newsom's whole plan on blast. And I would expect that from Charlie Kirk. But what I really didn't expect was Gavin Newsom's bravado during the Gavin Newsom podcast with Charlie Kirk, if you know what I mean. Now, at first, it seemed like just another political stunt, but then the truth started to leak out. Newsom's sudden shift isn't just about one issue. It's part of a much bigger plan. In fact, for years, he stood by radical policies that destroyed California, homelessness skyrocketing, businesses fleeing, crime out of control. But now he's pretending to see the light. Or is he? But why? Why is he now doing this, right? Because he knows that the Democratic Party is in total collapse. But here's the real bombshell, guys. Sources close to the party are now saying Gavin Newsom is quietly working behind the scenes to position himself as the Democrats' savior for 2028. He sees what's happening right now. Biden is out. Kamala Harris, she's a disaster. The Democrats, they have no leader. I mean, there's rumors of, Tim Walz trying to run for 2028, but that's not going to happen. And with President Biden or with President Trump back in the White House, Democrats are desperate. They're desperate for a new face to take on MAGA's unstoppable momentum. And the biggest proof? Well, Newsom just made the ultimate betrayal, turning against his own base on one of their most sacred issues. He suddenly admitted that allowing biological men to compete in women's sports is unfair. Wait, what? This is the same guy who pushed extreme gender policies for years. So why the sudden flip-flop, Newsom? Well, here's where it gets even crazier, guys. Newsom isn't just shifting his stance. He's testing the waters for 2028. He knows the Democratic base is splitting, and he's trying to rebrand himself before it's too late. Will the radical left turn on him like they turned on Biden? Well, it's all about to explode, and we got the receipts, guys. Stay with me, guys, because what happens next will send shockwaves throughout the entire political landscape.
At the end of this term, he'll have been governor for 8 years. He has a track record. So I don't think you get to run away from the positions you have been holding for decades just by talking to conservatives like Charlie Kirk. He never invited me on the podcast. I'm offended, by the way. I'm very offended. I feel left out.
Well, you should text Gavin. And secondly, you're exactly right, Sean. There was a moment of
before you went on.
There was a moment of podcast. Yeah. Well, no, and look, there was this back and forth where I drilled him. I said, look, you have the highest cost of living in California. You have the most homelessness in the country in California. You have the highest poverty rate in the country in California. You have the second highest home prices in the country. You guys control the House, the Senate, the governor's mansion, lieutenant governor's mansion, secretary of state, and attorney general, and every statewide elected office for the last 20 years. How is this Republicans' fault? What record are you going to run on? And you could, every time there's anything California specific, you know this from moderating the wonderful DeSantis debate, he gets hyper aggressive and focuses on one little minute detail, and he just tries to bring you down into the ditch. But everyone has been voting with their feet when it comes to California over the last couple of years. They have net population loss. People are leaving in record numbers. They also had the highest gas prices, unnecessarily highest gas tax. And so, look, there's nothing to run on except for the fact that he is very slippery and slick, and he's trying to reinvent and rebrand himself. And look, I'll talk to anybody at any time. There was a whole part, too, where I even got him to tacitly admit that President Trump is unlike any other cultural phenomenon we've ever seen. He's like, oh, yeah, I went to the Oval Office with President Trump, and I had a great time with him. I said, well, are you going to work with President Trump with ICE and immigration and Border Patrol? And, of course, he had a slick answer to that as well. But I think there's a looming Democrat civil war happening because Gavin Newsom is realizing that if he does not come to the middle on a lot of issues and magnify some of his positions, there will be no chance for him in a general election. But President Trump has completely remade the American body politic, and you can start to see the most opportunistic Democrat of them all, Gavin Newsom, at least attempting to adjust with some of his rhetoric. We'll see if his actions follow.
I really doubt that the actions will follow, but man, after years of pushing radical policies, Gavin Newsom, he was finally confronted head on with Charlie Kirk, and his response, absolutely stunning, guys. On the podcast, he actually admitted that the far left agenda is backfiring, right? He didn't just dodge the question. He openly said that biological men competing in women's sports is unfair. Like, this is the same Gavin Newsom who spent years attacking conservatives for saying the exact same thing. But here's where it gets even bigger. Even CNN and MSNBC, they can't spin this one. They're panicking because if Gavin Newsom is distancing himself from the whole woke agenda, then what does that mean for the future of the Democratic Party? What does it mean for their chances in 2028? Even left-wing strategists are calling this a complete disaster. Newsom was supposed to be their golden boy, the next big thing. But now he's breaking away and he's exposing just how weak, how divided, and how leaderless the Democrats really are. So this is, as Charlie Kirk said, this is a full-blown civil war within the Democratic Party. Newsom just made a huge gamble, but the real question is this going to pay off, or will the radical left just turn on him and burn him like they did on Joe Biden? But one thing is for sure, Trump is watching he's watching from the Oval Office, guys. And he's watching the Democrats implode right now. After the massive red wave of 2024, like, the left is in total disarray. And Gavin Newsom's desperate attempt to try and reinvent himself, it's only making it worse. So me personally, I think that this is only just the beginning. Is Gavin Newsom secretly plotting his 2028 takeover, or is this just another desperate stunt to save his own career now that Trump's back in the White House? Is the Democratic Party in total collapse, scrambling for a new leader after Biden's disaster? Let me know your thoughts on this, guys. Are we witnessing the final meltdown of the radical left? Good luck, Justin. Trudeau spoke to the press after this talk wherein he was moved to tears.
On a personal level, I've made sure that every single day in this office, I put Canadians first, that I have people's backs. And that's why I'm here to tell you all that we got you. Even in the very last days of this government, we will not let Canadians down today and long into the future. Because in the past few weeks, we've been working with our provincial and territorial partners to make sure that families can rely on this system, not just for years to come, but will allow this system to lock in, to become something that no government, a year from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, could ever go back on. And it's hard to do, because there is nothing one government can't do that can't be undone by the following government. Unless Canadians are very clear on the need to keep this going.
Now, it does seem like President Trump has a point here. There's a possible political upside to what Justin Trudeau is doing, and it could help him win. And it prompted another post from the president on Truth Social, but this one reads, quote, "Believe it or not, despite the terrible job that he's done for Canada, I think that Justin Trudeau is using the tariff problem, which he has largely caused, in order to run again for prime minister. So much fun to watch," end quote. And the competition over in Canada, it's getting heated because one of them is suggesting that we're bullying them and that nuclear deterrence may be needed. Now, I'm gonna get to that in just a second, but I want you to hear what our Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had to say about these tariffs with Canada. Watch.
As President Trump has said many times, tariff is his favorite word. I would say that reciprocal is probably his second favorite word. And I think we have to be open to the idea, if you want to be a numbskull like Justin Trudeau and say, oh, we're going to do this, then tariffs are going to go up. But if you want to sit back, have a discussion with the Commerce Department, USTR, they all have my phone number too. I am happy to have a discussion with our foreign counterparts that says that here's what we think you were doing. And the tariffs are the actual easy part. Because we know India does this on U.S. motorcycles. Germany does this or EU does this on American cars. That's a quantitative number.
So it's pretty clear that many people think that Justin Trudeau is making a huge mistake with these tariffs. And it's probably why he's doing his best to paint himself in a strong light, with other candidates putting on a very strong opposition to what he's doing. Although I think that this candidate takes the cake, as she suggests that they need a nuclear alliance, especially with what's happening between our countries. And by takes the cake, I'm talking about being a numbskull.
The U.S. is turning predator. And so what Canada needs to do is work closely with our democratic allies, our military allies. I've been foreign minister. I know how to do that. That's why I would start with our Nordic partners, specifically Denmark, which is also being threatened, and our European NATO allies. I would be sure that France and Britain were there, who possess nuclear weapons. And I would be working urgently with those partners to build a closer security relationship that guarantees our security in a time when the United States can be a threat.
Can somebody tell her that her country is the third largest importer of military weapons from the United States? And it's crazy that she's talking about NATO partners aiming nuclear weapons at the US. All of this is helping Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party, which might explain why he wanted this trade war from the beginning. And I have to note that this situation with Mexico, it's very different. In a post on Truth Social, the president acknowledged that Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on anything that falls under the USMCA agreement. So this agreement is until early April. He says he's doing it out of respect. That and the fact that Mexico is working with the US to stop illegal immigrants from entering our country, which includes the stopping of fentanyl. So Trudeau's asking what he can do to stop this tariff war when he already understands what needs to be done. He's doing all of this so as to remain in power. At least that's what the optics are telling us. Now moving on, guys, Democrats don't seem to be too concerned about their image these days. And it looks like they don't want to win for like the next 20 years or so. A viral cringe video was recently released where Democrats are seen in fighting poses. Now, I'm not really sure which demographic they're trying to reach here. Some have said that they're targeting gamers here because, you know, this is based on a classic video game, but I think it's pretty safe to say that they're not doing themselves any favors in terms of popularity. Now, speaking of which, Hunter Biden seems to have dug himself into quite a hole here. His art isn't selling as much nowadays, and his funds are all dried up.
Hunter Biden asked a judge to dismiss a lawsuit he brought against one of the top disseminators of his laptop's data, saying he no longer has the financial resources to continue litigation. Hunter Biden said in court filings he had, quote, significant debt in the millions of dollars range, and the Pacific Palisades wildfires rendered his rental home uninhabitable for an extended period of time. Biden said he could not continue with expensive court activity despite believing in the merits of his case. Hunter Biden sued Garrick Ziegler and his company Marco Polo in September 2023, calling Ziegler a, quote, zealot who has waged a sustained, unhinged, and obsessed campaign against the Biden family. Hunter Biden alleged that Ziegler illegally hacked into and tampered with his computer data. Biden's laptop and hard drive became a source of scrutiny because of the salacious and damning material that the FBI, political operatives, and eventually the media uncovered.
This is strange news given that we know he made a lot of money over in Ukraine. He was also selling his paintings for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I wonder why people suddenly lost interest in his art. He says that the last painting that he sold was priced at $36,000, and that was back in late 2023. His memoir also isn't selling well since book sales have dropped like a rock, which begs the question, besides corruption, what made this guy tick? There was absolutely nothing of merit that can be connected to him. And as far as we know, he'll forever be known as Joe Biden's son, aka a freaking loser and a coke addict. And the list goes on and on and on. Now, with that guy out of the White House, it's not surprising to see that Hunter's cash flow has suddenly stopped. But what do you guys think about Hunter? Now, I want to redirect you guys to a recent live stream that I did. I covered Ukraine's Zelensky and how he's completely fumbled his relationship with the United States and President Trump. Make sure you guys check that out as it affects a lot of us. As always, appreciate you guys being here. Thanks for hitting the like button and subscribing. We'll see you next time.